Hello good people, welcome to Keep Left, your all car guide to all things cars and all things automotive. As always, my name is Kev, the host who knows most about cars, and today's episode is going to be all about how you can service your own car at home. Most people will go to a garage or a service station for them to have a minor service done on their car. But do you know you can actually service your car at the comfort of your home, whether you are a dude or a dudette, and this actually saves you a lot of time and money that you end up paying the person to do the service for you. And normal rates are around 2,000 shillings in Kenya or $20 to upwards of 4,000 shillings or $40. Today I'm going to show you how to save you all this money by doing some of these services for yourself. And some of the parts that you will need to perform a minor service will be, because we are changing oil, you'll need oil specific to your car. This is specific for my car. The other thing you'll need is a fuel, an oil filter, and an air filter, which I have here. You'll also need just simple tools to help you to remove. This is a tool just I jerry rigged to help me remove the oil filter. I'll put a link and a picture of how a proper tool for removing oil filter looks for you. You also need a plug spanner. These are some of the things you can buy as a one-off. If you just buy a plug spanner for you, it will help you throughout the life of your car for you owning it. The other thing you might just need is a good tool set if you're just someone who's keen on working on their cars like me, for you to do that. But I'll insist, for the purposes of this video, you do not need this elaborate tool set. You just need a plug spanner for you to do that. You'll also need a sizable bolt spanner to open where you drain the oil in your sump. Aside from that, you might need a cloth. Let me just show you. You might need something to lie on when you are working on your car, because most cars will be low, and for that purpose you'll also need a jack to jack up your car. Those ones are very available in the boot of every car, and you'll need something just to make sure the car doesn't roll backwards. So I have this tool that I got from a flea market. It helps me a lot, but you don't need such a tool. You just need a piece of wood or a stone, just to make sure your car doesn't roll back. You might also need jack stands to hold up your car when you've jacked it up. But for the purposes of this video, my car is high enough that I don't need to have jack stands to hold it up. In the event that it falls down, it won't get to a position where it hurts me. Aside from that, you'll need to make sure that you have proper attire. Make sure you just wear clothing that is comfortable and something that you can discard later on, because you're bound to end up having oil being poured on you, or dust and mud that is mixed with oil getting particles on your clothes. You'll also need a good attitude. Working on your car, and especially doing a service, something very simple, and I'll show you that today. So if you have the right attitude, it's something that you can have knocked out in 10 to 15 minutes. You'll also need, before I forget, you'll also need a set of gloves. But you can always work on the car like that, just to protect your hands in the event that something pours. And aside from that, you need a card for you to note the next mileage where you'll be doing your next service. And now, for us to start, the first thing we'll do is to drain the oil. I usually start by draining the oil, so that as the oil drains, we can work on other things and knock them out. And for that, you'll have to jack up your car. Yep. Rated at 1,200 kg, sorry. So that should be enough to hold up the car. The other thing that I forgot to mention is you'll need something to drain your oil. And this is just a jerry can that I had lying around in the house. And what I did, I just cut around a hole. So once I open up the drain cock, oil will just fall into here. And this is quite opportune, because equally this car runs on around 4 liters, and this is 4 liters. So you don't need to have a special draining apparatus for that. Just cut up a jerry can and work on that. So as we begin, we get our pieces of mat and put them down where we're going to be lying. Just make sure you don't put them directly under where you'll be draining the oil, because in the event that oil pours, you don't want oil to fall on this. I can also insist that you can just pick a set of mats from your car is what you can use. So just make sure they are there. Why I'm doing this, I'm going to be going under the car in order to loosen up the bolt that seals the drain pan. Yes, before I do that, I can just show you where I'm going, because access down there is not a lot. So right now we are under the car, and some of the things I wanted to mention were, as you see, there's normally some leakage under the car, which is not bad, but can always be taken care of. But this is why I mentioned you need to have this clothing that you can always discard. So now this is the oil filter where we're going to be opening up, and the drain cock is here. So this is the drain cock, and mine has some modification that has been done to it. This is because the bolt was not grabbing well to the wrench that opens it, so I just had this welded out. But by all means, don't do this at home literally. So you can see most engines will have an indication of where your drain cock is. See engine oil, this is where it comes out of. So this is where we are going to be opening so that the oil drains. I'll do my best to have this one show. So it will be quite tricky just using one hand. Normally these are usually tightened up, but because of where the space I'm working with, I just had loosened this up so that I can just use my wrench to just open it. So I've just loosened it. Let me see if I'm in the proper position to do this. Just make sure you align where it's going to be draining off with your drain pan, and I think we are right by just eyeballing it. So now you open the drain plug, and oil will just flow slowly so that you can see where it comes off. Slowly, and making sure you just align it. Yeah, you don't want also to dirtify your floor. This might come out with a bit of pressure, so always be ready to align it. Yeah, just around there. Yep. Oh, it's quite a lot. So there. Yep. So that's what I mean. Always be ready to align it. Unfortunately, got an oil on my mat, but it's okay. Can always clean it. So yeah, so you can see the oil draining. Yep. So while it drains, we can go top side and open it up. Yep. As the oil drains on the bottom side, you can just open up the fill hole on the top of your engine. Once you do that, air will help push the oil downwards to go outside. And as that happens, we can knock off one of the simplest things to change. In this case, that is the air filter. Now for the air filter, you just open up this here. Usually some tabs here, you open up, they're around 4, and then just open it. Yep. And the air filter is here. Yep. This is how dirty it was. Put it aside, then pick the new one. This is the easiest thing to change, by the way. The most fun. Once you put it, now you just remember how it was. It was like the other way, actually, because of space. It was like this. Once that is done, you can see how clean it is. This is what takes air into the engine, and then helps the car to breathe much better. For further information about how an engine works, I actually have a video talking about how an engine works and the parts. There's a link that will be coming up on this video. You can watch that. I'll have the same link on the description. Now back to the service. Once you cover it so easily, it's one of the easiest things to do. Just cover it like that, and this should be airtight like that. You're done with the air filter. The next thing to do is the plugs. While you're there, you can just come close. You need to disconnect the wires from the coil. I hope you can see that. Yes. So this is the coil, which brings it's connected to this. This what all cars will have this. Modern cars will have this. So this is what I was disconnecting from here on that side. So you can just put the coil there. I can attest for Japanese cars, it doesn't matter which coil you return where, the coils are normally interchangeable. So, but for purposes of just being safe with what you're doing, you can just arrange the coils there. So I'll repeat the same for the 4 other coils. So now, once you've had the 4 coils removed, the next thing is to remove the plugs, and for that you'll need the plug spanner. So for starters, we just put it in. The space is quite limiting here, so I won't be able to record effectively. Yes, there. We have this moved on. Yep. And then we start. So now, just to pick out the plug, once you've loosened it, you can use one of the coils. Just dip into it, and then you should be able to come out with a plug. So that's the first plug. I won't, with the plugs, I won't be replacing them because I just did this for the purposes of the video. But these are iridium plugs, and I had this just replaced 5,000 kilometers ago. So with the iridium plugs, you can actually have this play out for 10 to 20,000 kilometers, depending on the owner's manual, what it says. If you don't have an owner's manual, you can always check on the internet of how long your iridium plugs can actually go. So these plugs are still in good condition. So and as I mentioned, I just replaced them just a few months ago, actually just about 5,000 kilometers ago. So these ones can go back. Now I'll show you how to put back the plugs, because my assumption is you're actually putting fresh plugs in your car. So with the same plug, this is how it goes in. This is the top part, and the down part is this. This is where it goes inside your engine. So for that, what I can show you is how it fits into the plug spanner. So the plug spanner this is what it actually does. So this is inside the engine, and this is what you open it. So it needs to go in with the threads first. Don't make a mistake of putting it like this. No, it goes in like this. So the same way, just go into the space for the plug, put it in. You can just drop it in. No need to guide it with the plug spanner. This is where we need to be specific with this plug spanner. Then go again, just tighten the plug by hand. We need to tighten it by hand because if you use a power tool or start going with the wrench, you won't have a feel of if the plug is gripping well to the threads, and you might end up cross-threading the block and ruining it. Yeah, so now this is what to do. Actually, the cylinder head, not the block. So this is what we do. Go in again. This pescal. Go in again. Make sure you've gripped it correctly. Let me just move this so that we can see. Yeah. Then now we tighten it by hand. Just slowly take your time. Have a feel at how it's going, and then you will know when it's tight enough that you can use your wrench to tighten it further. I don't have the torque specs for this particular car, but you can always check that online. And if what I normally do is just tighten it enough, because this is something that you end up removing periodically. You don't want it to be so tight, also not so loose that you end up having the plug play around inside there. So once it is hand tight, just tighten it a bit with the wrench. So you go in. Just a minute. Space. Yep. We just tighten it a bit, and actually you can feel as it tightens just a bit. This is there. So now one thing I forgot is while you're working on the coils and the plugs, just make sure to cover again the fill hole for oil. This is just to make sure nothing drop inside the engine, because if something was to drop inside there, oh my, we'll have another major job to do, because we'll have to open up the cylinder head to get whatever dropped in there, a bolt, a screw, anything, or even a spanner. Now I've opened it again just for now to go to the next part. So the next part, if you come close, is the oil filter. So what I'm going to be opening is this is the oil filter. This is the oil filter here. Let me just, I don't know if you can see that. Yes, that's the oil filter here. That's what you open up. And let me just show you with the new oil filter. This is the oil filter we are going to replace with the other one. What basically my jerry-rigged apparatus does is, show you here, it hooks on there like this. Yes, sorry for that. Let me just, like that. And then when you bring a wrench, you can just spin it until it opens. I have a space constraint under there, but I'll do my best to make sure you can be able to see what needs to be done. This car is quite advantageous in the fact that the oil filter is in an opportune position where you can actually see it, but access under might be a bit issue, but I'll do my best. I had loosened it, so now you can just come in and remove it by hand. You see, just going easily. Before I do that, I've noticed there's still some oil. So what I'll do, I'll move my actually the oil is inside the filter. So what I'll do, if you can come, I'll just bring my drain my drain thing there, and I hope you can see. So now as I open it, that side, as I open it, because there's some oil that is inside the filter, that is what is coming up now. Just make sure it doesn't pour to the ground. Yes, so slowly. Just slowly as you open it. Yes, till we open, it's quite has quite a long thread, but it will come out. This actually helps you when you're going back in. It becomes easier. Yep, that's how you do it. So once you've removed the oil filter, this is probably how it will look. Just give you a sense of the car actually needed an oil change. So this is the new one. So let me just put this one here, and the new one, quite conveniently, just open the cover, and then before we do anything, we bring our oil. So now this is what we do with our oil. Before you put oil into the engine directly, you might want to open it up, obviously. But we are opening so that we can actually feed the oil filter. So I'll just put it here and steadily just put some oil. This is to help when I start up the car. There's actually some oil in the filter that can go into the engine, instead of now having to start up a car with the engine that hasn't gone down to the pickup in the sump. So just put some oil here with some steady hands, just a little bit so that you don't pour it, and then you can put some on the lining there, just there like that. Sometimes I see people just putting some oil on this gasket here, this gasket material, but it's not necessary because if you notice from where I've removed the oil filter, that place is already wet with oil, and that will easily lubricate this. So once you've done that, put your oil on the ground far enough that you can't kick it, and then you go down with this. With this oil, you don't necessarily need to fill it, but just go down with it now, and then we put it in. But before we do that, we have to return our drain plug, because by now the oil has drained completely. So let me return the fill plug so that when you put the oil, it doesn't just come out again. You'll end up having to go and buy another some other liters of oil. So now get a piece of rag and just wipe off the area where oil could have spilled onto the bottom end of the engine, and I'll tell you why at the end of this video. Also, this is the part where we now put the oil filter. Remember, we have put some oil into this. You don't want to put so much, because while you're returning it, you might end up losing the whole amount. So if you come close, I'll just show you how to put the oil filter. Not in all situations is it that you'll be able to put the oil from the top end. You might have to do this from the bottom, but since I'm able to access from here, I'm just going to put it from here so that we can see. Just it has some threads. We just go into that, and then you just screw it now. Just turn it until it gets, again, this is something we do first of all, hand tight, and then once it's tight, we can just give it a small nudge to make sure it stays there. You don't want your oil filter coming off as you drive. But in normal situations, you just hold hand tight is good enough. Just make sure it's in there. Yep, it's in there, and then I'll go under and tighten it with my jerry-rigged tool. So now, once you've tightened the oil filter, it's time to put on the oil. But before we put on the oil, I would like to request you all, people of the internet, if you like my videos, take this chance to subscribe. It is through your viewing and subscribing that helps us to continue to make this automotive content. Now, to put in the oil, you might need a funnel for this, but if you have steady hands, you can just put it. Remember, I just want to make this as simple enough so that anyone can do it in their parking at their home. So now you can just come and pour. Remember, while we are doing this, we're just eyeballing it, and we intend not to put the whole thing. Yes, it seems my hands are steady enough. Yeah, let it go in. We won't put the whole thing. Remember, this is 4 liters. We're just going to put just enough, and then we are going to measure. After that, we cover the fill hole. Not so tight, just enough. And then from there, the next thing we do is take your car down. Remember, it was up so that I can work on it, so we just put it down in order to help us to measure the oil. Remember, you have to measure your oil when the car is on a level ground. If I was to measure it while it was tilted, I might end up in a situation where I get a wrong reading. Yeah, and also because the next part of this, I don't need to go under the car. Yeah, once you remove the jack, put it aside. And now we just give the oil some few minutes to just drain down, and then we can measure the dipstick. The engine sounds good. I'll allow it to run for a minute or two so that the oil can circulate inside the engine. And then after that, I'll put it off and then just take a reading Once the reading comes out well, I'll go under the car and see if there are any leakages. If there are no leakages, we are set. Perfect, great. Now I've checked, there are no leakages. The next thing to do is with your cloth, just measure the oil again. By now it should have settled. And the oil is in a good level. And with that, having checked the level of the oil in the engine, you've been able to complete a minor service. After that, the next thing we need to do is update on the service card. This is a card that you get when you buy oil, and it contains basically the things that you need to do. So on what you have checked, just tick. What you've changed, you just tick on changed. Write the date and the next mileage. For this one, we've put fully synthetic oil. Remember, this is a synthetic oil. So we are able to do 10,000 kilometers. So once I'm updating, I'll add 10,000 kilometers until the next service. And that, we have completed a minor service. We've changed plugs. I've shown you how to change plugs. I've shown you how to change the oil and air filter. So now the next thing is, if you wanted to do a major service, this involves suspension parts. It will involve things like bushes. It will involve checking your gearbox fluid, coolant, brake fluid, fuel filters. It's quite more involving, but at least that is something that is done on larger durations, probably after 2 years, depending on what you have on your owner's manual. Give this video a thumbs up if you've liked it, and I'm sure you've liked it. I'm sure it has empowered you. And with that, until next time, it is peace.